I was halfway through pressure washing the dock pylons under the brutal Arizona sun when Deborah Langley came clicking down the pier in her sensible heels, looking like the HOA had just appointed her god. Clipboard clutched to her chest like a holy tablet, oversized sunglasses hiding eyes that had probably never smiled without calculating the fine first. Shadow Ridge Lakeside's very own dictator in pastels. "Ryan Whitaker," she called out, voice dripping with that fake neighborly sweetness that always preceded a knife in the back. "We need to discuss your refusal to participate in our Community Lakeside Experience program." I killed the power washer and wiped my hands on my jeans. "Deb, I've said no 4 times now. My marina is private property, not HOA turf." Her smile didn't waver. Article 14, Section 3 of the Covenants clearly states that all shoreline-adjacent properties must support community initiatives for the betterment of our shared lifestyle. The board voted unanimously. "Your dock is the only suitable launch point for the new paddleboard and kayak rentals." I leaned against the railing. "Shared lifestyle? You're trying to run a commercial rental operation on my private docks without paying rent, insurance, or even asking nicely. That's not community spirit, Deb. That's called trespassing with extra steps." She adjusted her pearls. "Refusing to cooperate hurts everyone, Ryan. Think of the children, the families, the property values. Property values you're about to tank by turning my working marina into your personal playground." I shot back. She left in a huff, but I knew that wasn't the end. HOA Karens never quit. They escalate. The next morning, 2 county code enforcement officers showed up with lights flashing. Complaint about unauthorized commercial activity and zoning issues at Whitaker Marina. I smiled. "Let me guess. Deborah Langley?" They wouldn't confirm, but we all knew. I walked them through every permit, the deed, the surveys. Everything was ironclad. My marina had been grandfathered in before the gated community even existed. "Everything checks out," the lead officer said, tipping his hat. "Sorry for the waste of time." But Deb wasn't done playing sheriff. 2 days later, a $750 non-compliance fine appeared in my mailbox from the HOA. That's when I decided it was time to stop being nice. See, what Deborah Langley didn't know was that 3 months earlier, I'd been appointed to the County Land Use Advisory Board. I spent my evenings reading zoning codes for fun, while most folks watched Netflix. And I'd been quietly watching her emails. At the next HOA meeting in the clubhouse, the air was thick with the smell of stale coffee and desperation. Deb stood at the podium like a queen addressing her subjects. "As your president, I'm excited to announce progress on our lakeside rental program." I stood up from the back row. "Before you keep digging that hole, mind if I add some facts?" The room went dead silent. Deb's face tightened. "Mr. Whitaker, this is a board meeting. Public comment is at the end." "Actually," I said, walking forward with my own folder, "as a sitting member of the County Land Use Advisory Board, I think the public deserves to hear this now." I opened the folder. "First, you submitted a reclassification request to turn my private marina into community access shoreline, without my signature. You even forged my initials on the application. That's fraud." Gasps rippled through the crowd. "Second, you applied for county recreation grants claiming projected profits of $85,000 a year, using my docks as collateral assets. Again, with documents bearing my forged signature." Deb's face went pale. "Those were preliminary drafts." "Preliminary fraud," I cut in. "I forwarded everything to the county prosecutor this morning. They're reviewing it for falsifying public records and attempting improper acquisition of private property." I held up printed emails. And let's not forget the anonymous tip to code enforcement claiming I was running an illegal operation. Wasted county resources. That's a false report. A retired engineer in the third row stood up. "Deb, is this true? You tried to seize his marina?" She stammered about miscommunications and community good, but the room had already turned. The board was forced to table the rental program indefinitely. But that was just the appetizer. 2 days later, I got a call from my buddy at the county attorney's office. The forged documents had triggered a full audit of the HOA's last 3 years of filings. What they found was a goldmine of grift. Deb hadn't just come after my marina. She'd been systematically skimming HOA funds through shell companies. Fake landscaping contracts. Phantom pool repairs. Over $92,000 funneled to vendors that existed only on paper, many tied back to her brother-in-law. The boat rental scheme wasn't about the children. It was her latest cash grab to cover the holes she'd already dug. The sheriff's department executed search warrants on the HOA office and Deb's oversized stucco McMansion. Neighbors watched as boxes of documents and computers were carried out. Her mugshot made the local news. HOA president faces felony charges. The kind of headline that ends careers and reputations in small desert towns. At the emergency community meeting, the new interim board was shell-shocked. Residents who'd been silent for years suddenly found their voices, demanding audits and transparency. One guy even suggested I join the oversight committee. I accepted, not because I wanted power, but because someone had to make sure the next clipboard tyrant didn't try the same game. 6 months later, Shadow Ridge Lakeside had new bylaws. Every expenditure over $500 needed public vote and independent review. The Marina stayed mine, protected by fresh county filings. Deb took a plea deal, restitution, probation, and a permanent ban from holding any position of trust in any homeowners association in the state. The last time I saw her, she was loading boxes into a U-Haul at 6 a.m., hoping no one would notice. The for sale sign in her yard went up the next week. Turns out, when you spend years weaponizing rules against your neighbors, eventually those same rules come for you. So here's the question, folks. Was Deborah Langley just an overzealous neighborhood mom trying to improve the community? Or was she the perfect example of how power-hungry Karens hide behind bylaws until the system they worship finally bites back? Who really abused their authority here? And did she get exactly the justice her precious covenants demanded?